everyone. Welcome to the SBP podcast, Mobile Filmmaking. I'm your host, Susie Botello, and you are listening to episode 99. Our guest in this episode has made several films using her smartphone, but usually she makes films using other cameras. So what brought her to start making films with her smartphone? At least for some time, and to feature them and make a big deal out of them, and also to inspire people around where she lives. She lives in New Orleans, and she is very active in the filmmaking community there. So my guest is Rachel Jacob, and I want to share with you that I had a lot of fun discussing mobile filmmaking with our guest. Discussing her film and her experiences. The reason for that also is because she is very passionate about storytelling. And guess who else is very passionate about storytelling? Me. We actually met in a Clubhouse event in a room. And if you don't know anything about Clubhouse, it's the Clubhouse app is drop-in audio social media, so to speak. We, with the Mobile Film Stories platform, have our own club there. So if you are there, connect and become a member of Mobile Film Stories. June 19th. That's the date when we open the submissions for the San Diego International Mobile Film Festival. Both competitions, the feature film competition and the short film competition, both open on the same date. You'll have until the end of the year. Go to internationalmobilefilmfestival.com and get all the details there. Okay, back to our guest, Rachel Jacob. Just so you know, we met in the Clubhouse app, and I can't miss this opportunity to share something with you. We have a club there. And once a week, we hold an event, a room, and we invite several filmmakers, mobile filmmakers, and people in the industry to come up and speak as part of a panel. And then we invite listeners to come and speak and share their perspectives as well on the topics that we're discussing. So Mobile Film Stories, just do a little search there. Or go to the link in the notes, which we're adding to give you an opportunity to go there. Also, one last thing. Let me share this with you. Just in case you don't get through to the end of the episode, hopefully you will. It's really inspiring. But if you don't, you can follow Rachel on Instagram, Rachel_Jacob_Nola. So just giving you a heads up on that. And also, I'm on Twitter, and I'm pretty active on Twitter, at Susie, S-U-S-Y, Botello. So follow me there, and let me know that you're listening, and tag SBP Podcast on Twitter, and I will retweet. I may even shout something at you at some point as well. All right, let's go talk to Rachel. Hey, I've got a great guest here today for you. I've got Rachel Jacob from New Orleans, who is here. And hi, yes. Rachel, how are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you? I'm so excited to be here.
I know. I'm excited that you're here, sort of.
I know. Virtually over the
it's kind of like
interwebs.
A big jump away, but hey, we are close because it's all about the connection of this wonderful community. For listeners, listen, the reason that Rachel is here is, one, she's pretty awesome. Two, I met her in Clubhouse, and she's pretty awesome. And three, she made some movies with her phone. I mean, she makes, the traditional movies and all that, but she also made some movies with her phone, and she's pretty awesome. So to wind it down, she's pretty awesome, and she's here, and she's going to inspire all of you with some really awesome stories.
Well, I hope so. We'll see. And you are awesome.
Oh, stop. So let's begin by sharing with our listeners a little bit about Rachel, the filmmaker, and the human, of course. First of all, what brought you into filmmaking in the first place?
Well, I actually kind of grew up around the industry because my dad and his whole side of the family were involved in the industry in one way or another. So I was around it growing up. And I, would put a foot in here and there and caught the bug as one does. And then, you're in it, so yeah, I grew up around it and I fell in love with it. And yeah, here I am.
What was the specifics of what you really loved out of it? Was it the storytelling? What part of it was it that really called out to you and said, because filmmaking is not the easiest thing to get into.
Yeah, no.
I mean, there's a lot of the secrets, right? Like who
Yes.
how you get in and all that stuff. So it's not the easiest thing to get into. It's not easy to say, oh, I'm going to be a filmmaker.
Right.
What really attracted you?
Well, honestly, I think it was, so my parents brought us up on golden age of Hollywood classic movies, and I just remember being enraptured by them, like the story and the way they, you use this visual medium to evoke emotion and to tell a truth of some sort. Like filmmaking is magic. Like it's literal magic, and I don't mean that in the cheesy way, like, oh my gosh, movie magic, da da da. Like no. I mean it's actual magic because we get to manipulate reality to reveal a truth about reality in some way, like to tell a story, to tell a truth. And it's just, how cool is that? Like, I mean, obviously I wasn't thinking that when I was a little kid, right? But something always spoke to me about movies and filmmaking and all of that. And it's just sort of, I guess this is what I kind of grew into becoming a filmmaker because I love that. I love that.
Did you know
art about it?
Did you know? And that was one of the things I was going to say earlier. It is an art and a science. It's a combination of both.
Yes, thank you. It is so much. I'm like, yes, it involves so much of the right and the left brain, if you want to call it that, and it involves just so bringing in so many other art forms. It's almost like a big umbrella in which all art forms can live, and I'm sure obviously you can say that about a whole lot of different art forms, but really all art can live in film.
Yes, exactly.
Which is insane. Yeah.
It's one of the reasons I think for as far as education in schools, like every school should not really make kids, but I mean, it should be something that you have to do, like PE or something, like they make you do that. But it's like, what about exercising that part of the brain, which is actually communication?
Yes.
There's so much communication skills that you have to learn when you're making films in so many different ways. But what you were talking about earlier, the psychology of it,
Yes.
because that's a huge part of communication. You have to communicate to your audience the vision and what you expect from them. And as a filmmaker, if you hit that right, 99% of your audience is crying basically or feeling that same emotion, then you've done it right.
Yes, exactly. And, not even just making the film, but also taking in other films and analyzing them in that way, like breaking them down. If you want to talk about school programs or whatever, films should be studied as well, because learning how to analyze what messages you're receiving as well, as the audience, is also a whole other side of the coin, So yeah, I mean, there's just obviously so much to pull from, each side of the camera or the film is so enriching.
And it's a struggle. It's a struggle for filmmakers because, on one hand, you're creating a product, so there's this business sense of it. On the other hand, you do have to possess some sort of artistic will or passion, right?
Yes.
Along with it. And that part is completely different than the business part of it. And then there's the part in the middle where you have to literally create. You have to learn, part of it is technology, but there's this other part of, you got to know the concept of call sheets and shot lists and all these things together. And, when to call it, when you're putting things together, they're not all shot at the same time, but they're shot according to the timeline of the story, but in different days and different times, as long as it matches later. So it all looks like it was shot, continuously throughout the day type thing.
Mm-hmm.
And those things are not easy to grasp. And then the communication part is if you're directing, right? You have actors that have to trust you. They have to, because you don't have time to sit there and go, look, you don't have to memorize. I had this one thing I was doing. It was like a little documentary. And we had, the best way I could string it together was to have this hostess, right? And it was like, she was talking about, it haunted San Diego is what it was. And so she was, we went out and shot some stuff, and she was breaking up each scene basically. And she couldn't memorize. She was like, I don't have time. I can't memorize all these things. I said, you don't have to. Stop worrying about it. And she kept going back with this. And I'm like, really, don't memorize anything. Don't worry about it. Just don't worry about it. And she was like, what the hell? How am I going to do this?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I told her during that time, all right, let's do this. I want you to say one small 3-line paragraph of what you have to say. She said, that's it? And I said, yeah, just do that. And then we'll cut, and then we'll do a medium shot. And then we'll do the rest as a wide shot. And she was like, oh, now I get it. Why she didn't have to say the whole thing. It didn't matter. She, but just little things like that.
It wasn't as overwhelming.
Right. Yeah. And those things, you have to be considerate as a director, but you have to be able to connect with your people. There's just so much. So for you, it was like the whole concept of filmmaking? I feel like I totally got sidetracked. Sorry.
No, you're good. I think at different points, I've been attracted to different elements of it, of the industry or different parts. And then they've all just sort of have melded, if you will. I dabbled in acting. I still do. I love it. I love to act. But then it was like, as I got older, ideas and stories would come to me, and, I would write them down, or I would, I learned screenwriting in school, and I took to it, which I didn't expect to.
Why is that?
I don't know. I was never a huge, I don't know. I didn't really, I feel like that part of my brain was sort of unlocked when I had the opportunity to study some screenwriting, and like, I didn't expect that I would be a writer. And this was a long time ago now, but I don't know, it helped my brain, sort of my imagination, explode with even more ways to, I don't know, like writing clicked with me in a way that was like, that's how I communicate what's in my head. Like, oh.
And it's a different kind of writing. It's not like writing a book.
No, it is not. Like, it's not a novel. It's not an essay. It's very different, and it works. It's technical, but it's also like, really, it's what do you like? You're telling what you're seeing almost in your head, which is what I guess what attracts.
It's like
me.
You're playing out the movie, which is how you get the idea in the first place.
Yes, I see. You see it. I watch it in my head, and then it translates to what are my scripts, but like in that medium, that's design, and it's perfectly designed for it. So, yeah, so yeah, and then, directing, it took me a while to start being able to pull off visually what I had in my head. Like, I think the first thing that I really truly directed, I was like 18, and I turned a school project into a short film, like and it was an adaptation. It was an adaptation of Kate Chopin's The Story of an Hour. And I talked a classmate into coming and acting, and we shot the whole thing. And it's I made it silent because I had no idea how to do sound or anything like that. And we got in these like old dresses and like played the two sisters, and I put the camera here, there, and everywhere. And and it was I mean, it's funny to look at now, but after that, like that was sort of like a launching point for me of like starting to do it on my own, like tell the stories myself, directing, writing, occasionally being in the stories. So yeah,
That's what more
I don't know. I
more
think
people are doing now is that what you just said, because you have the whole vision
yeah,
and the tools are
yes,
there.
mhm.
And I mean, if you don't know how to do something, you technically can go and Google it, right? To give you at least an
Yeah,
idea. And but the
mm-hmm.
tools are easier to come by so that you can sort of do it even though you don't always want to do everything yourself.
Oh no,
You know,
no, learned the
but
hard way.
yeah, but also it helps
Mm-hmm.
you understand what can be like, as a director, if you're also editing, it gives you an idea of what the editor is going to want or need, that you can make that happen
Yes.
during the production.
Yes, it is very eye-opening. You see what, to do as many positions, play as many roles as possible at certain points in your journey, is so insightful, because it helps you, and it helps you just be a better team member when you have it, when you start having bigger teams of people, because you understand what they need to do and what it takes for them to do that.
Yeah. So were you volunteering or working in different films along with that to connect with people, to network, and to know different, learn different ways of doing the same things?
Yeah, so I mean, I feel like it was like I did it sporadically for a little while. Like in my like teens, and then once I got into my 20s, I like hardcore went to work on like the big feature films that were shooting down here and some shows, and I was in the AD department for a long time. And I mean, that's the department to go to if you want to learn everything, because you get to learn everyone's jobs, and you help organize and run everything. You learn the terminology, and you just understand what it takes to make something huge.
And if you don't
And
cry, you're inspired.
oh yeah, yeah, there were many tears on many occasions, but it's all good. Yeah, so I did that, and then I got involved with more short films. I did a few more myself, and tried to dip in wherever I could. So yeah, definitely.
Wow. And then from there, so somehow you got your footing into saying, I want to do something more serious, because you have a production company, am I right? I'm just totally.
Well, sort of. So
Yeah.
I did have one with a partner, and we no longer have that production company, but it's all good.
Yeah.
And now I have a company that exists to protect my scripts and whatnot, but I'm not functioning as like a production house or anything. And then I work with a nonprofit production company to sort of like keep kicking, well, not kicking off, but like keep infusing life into, or continuing to infuse life into the indie scene here in New Orleans and in Louisiana in general. We do like short films and this type of thing like all the time, and we hope to do more and get bigger and stuff with that. And then I've got my own projects, a couple of features that I am shopping around and I'm hoping to make them soon. So yeah.
So for our listeners, this is the kind of thing they love to hear because for some of them, they may be, and depending what country they are in, or even what city, what part of our country they're in, they may not have all these. Like for example, if you're in LA, it's like bubbles all over the place, right? Of opportunities in a way, as long as you start meeting people.
Right.
But in some other places, there's not. So sometimes you may have to reach out, maybe to a nonprofit, or maybe to schools or whatever, and bring
Yeah.
it up and say, I'll volunteer, or I will make it happen, or I will lead it, whatever it is, so that you can keep moving in the industry and learning and doing, because you're learning a lot just by all these things that you're doing, right?
Oh yeah. Oh, big time. Yeah. Every day. It's a journey, but yeah. Oh, absolutely. Especially if and that is really hard to be in a place where the industry is not easily accessible. But I mean, I guess that's where, especially where you guys come in with the mobile filmmaking, which is genius, and it allows for so much creativity and opportunity to flex those muscles and to get yourself out there with like the online, or not online, but like the way that you enter films now. It's all digital, and like for to do festival runs and get your name out there. And
Well, it is kind of online, though. I think you're right, because,
yeah.
it used to be, I remember having to drop off DVDs and things like that, at some
Yes,
location,
exactly.
or putting them in the mail and all kinds of silly things like that, right?
Yeah, now it's just you just upload it
Right.
and there it is on Film Freeway.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. You're right.
Yeah. So, so let me see. So that's a good segue, actually, for the mobile filmmaking stuff. So somehow you brought yourself into Film Freeway, into the mobile filmmaking,
Yeah.
and that kind of began around 2020, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that was my first film that I ever shot on a phone, because I had never really thought to do that before, and I had heard that it was starting to become a thing, like with Tangerine and everything, and I was just like, oh wow, like that's fascinating. But I was just like, I don't know, it didn't really spark my interest until the quarantine, like the hardcore lockdown time of the pandemic this past year. Some friends of mine and I, and through this nonprofit, decided to do we called it Home Movie Madness Film Festival.
Nice.
And challenging everybody to do a short film in their house with their phone. And we all participated. Like, we all had to participate, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like I don't know what to do, like, because it was me, myself, and I was like, I don't know. But then I don't know, I did it, and I was just like, that was a blast, and I have this finished product, and like, what a way to practice and to
And you did your best,
really
huh?
hone. Yeah, I did I mean, going back now, I actually wish I would have done more. And since then, I've done a few other films on my phone, because I was really like, this is amazing. Like, I can do this, and I can like show what's in my head. I can get a little story out right now, and like, yeah,
Well, that's your
just make
motivation
something,
for
be creative.
for the next one, because you made more. You made
Yeah.
more after that, right?
Yeah, I did make more, because it was such a great experience, and it showed me that like, oh, this has way more capacity than what I was allowing it to have in my head. Like, I was like, oh, you really can do a lot with your phone, and there, it's not. I don't know. I just had. I think I had really limited. A limited view of it, and doing it myself really just broke all of those limitations and barriers that I had in my head. And I was just like, wow, I actually was like, I'm gonna do one more before I do this podcast with you. So I the other night I just did like this like little experimental thing, but I got a little more creative with it, and I got some lights involved and like did a whole like creepy sort of like dream sequence, and it was so much fun. So
Are we going to share this with our listeners then?
well, I haven't really put it out there yet, but yeah, sure, why not?
Yeah, we've got to put it. We can throw a link over on our notes, and
Okay.
we do write an article with our podcast, so we can embed it there too.
Oh wow. Okay, well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I did it. It's like 3 shots, but you know, I just did this little like while you were sleeping type of sequence that came to me, and
see,
yeah,
that's the beauty of it, right? I sound so
Yeah.
cliche. That's the beauty of it. But it is. It's like
it is, yeah.
It's like you just have a thought and there's your phone and you're looking at it. It's looking at you. It's all like love at first sight, right?
Yeah.
It's all like
Yeah,
use me.
exactly.
Come on, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And so I'm thrilled that, you know, I've sort of added this to my repertoire, if you will.
Well, I think
Yeah.
you know, some of the things that you were just saying, you know, filmmakers for the most part, they have the network, they have the tools, they have, you know, they just call Joe, right? Just throwing a
Yeah.
name out there, and he
Right.
comes over. He's the camera guy, right?
Yeah.
Calls you know, Jennifer, and Jennifer comes over and she's like, yeah, I'm your AD, and I can also do sound and blah blah blah, you know, that kind of a thing. So it's not really, there's no need to go there, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a lot about, you know, budgets and things like that, but in the end it's about, you don't have to really fund a film shot with this to get started with it, right? And to learn from it.
Exactly.
That's actually pretty cool, because any idea, you don't have to put too much thought into it. As long as you have a good idea for a good story, you just start making it, and you're not exhausting people or resources or anything like that. I mean, every time you break out the good camera, you know, you're putting wear on it. Who cares
Yeah.
if it's your phone? I mean, it's so
Yeah, it's being worn by you all the time.
And you renew your contract every year or two, and then you get a new phone, you know, the next model up, which is incredible considering when you get a camera, you know, how long it takes before you can, you know, go to another new model again. I mean, that's like,
Yeah.
that's
it's
like
expensive.
serious business right there.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, your phone is right there, and it's so rewarding. It's so rewarding to just shoot something, even if you don't do anything with it. But, you know, I mean, because it's like you can get as technical and crazy and creative and hardcore about it, or you can just go run and gun, you know, and still come out with something really amazing. And it's that's crazy. It's so cool.
Yeah, I think that's probably part of what, you know, what some more established filmmakers don't like, because they're used to having to plan and plot and, you know, get very technical with the whole aspect of even shooting one scene, right? Where with this, it feels like, well, you shouldn't be just like going out and just shooting some scene just like off the top of your head because you feel like it, because that's just not professional or something. It's like, who cares? As long as you have something you can work with after, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it lets you be in the story a little bit more, because you're not so distracted by
Yes.
all the other things. You know, it's really about, okay, put it there, roll, let's go, boom.
Yeah.
You know?
And if you don't like it, delete.
Yeah, exactly. It's a really quick redo. That happened to me the other night when I was shooting the other one, because, you know, I had, my angle was a little bit off, and I would just play it back and, okay, delete, do it again, adjust, boom. But, you know, and I did it in like a couple of hours.
Nice.
And it was phenomenal.
Yeah, and there's something about the lenses in the smartphone, and then some of the the ways that it handles light because it's such a small lens, right? And the natural, automatic things that it does for you sometimes without even thinking about it. And you're going, oh, that actually looks kind of cool and
Yeah.
unique.
It'll surprise you occasionally.
But in a good way, because with
Yeah.
other cameras, you're going, oh, crap. What happened there?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. That wasn't intentional. Yeah,
Right?
exactly.
But with this, it kind of makes it something more than what you thought you were going to get sometimes that you can use. And even if you go, well, that's not exactly what I want this to look like, you can still keep it and use it for something else. And it might come in handy, right?
Exactly.
Maybe even make a music video out of your film instead of just a trailer, right?
Oh, that's cool. Yeah.
I'm just throwing some
Totally.
ideas out there for people.
I know now I'm gonna have to go make a music video on my phone.
Yeah. Well, you know, some of
totally.
the first videos that were shot with mobile phones or cell phones, I should say, even, but even with the iPhone 4 were music videos because sound was not really a thing yet. You know, getting good sound out of a phone back in the day was really hard.
Right.
And it's still kind of not the best. Some people make it work good, but I mean, I'm a big fan of good sound. Our listeners, hopefully this podcast sounds great. But
I hope so.
Right? Like, yeah, Susie. But quite honestly, it's like sound is half the picture. But for me, right, sound is even more important. So I would say, you know, if you're making a film, right, to put a little more time into sound that you're saving with the video by using the camera, right? Like, I've
get a little recorder. Get a recorder.
Right?
You
Get
know,
an
they're cheap.
HM4
Get a little
or something.
Yeah, they're cheap and they're really, really good. And you just sync it.
Yep. There's something about
Boom.
syncing. Boom.
Yeah.
And you need a boom.
Get a boom.
Yeah.
You know, get a lav, whatever.
I mean, you could literally use, just gave me an idea because we talk about this with different guests about using phones as microphones.
You can.
Even the iPhone, the memo app it's pretty good. It's pretty decent. But I mean, I'm just sitting here going, oh, rubber band and a broom pole, whatever. You attach the phone to the end of that, and you got your shot.
There you
going.
go. That is true. That's so funny. Yeah.
You get resourceful. So now tell me a little bit about this festival that you had and how that all came together, because that's actually a pretty good idea for filmmakers making films. I'm not telling you not to submit your film to our film festival. But what I'm saying is you could put a test and feelers out there by throwing your own little festival. So share a little bit about that.
Yeah. So I'm involved with a film nonprofit down here called Comfy Film NOLA. And, we had this whole program of, helping filmmakers get their indie shorts off the ground and all that stuff. But obviously COVID, threw a wrench in our whole plan and everything. I mean, like we've been doing this for a while, but it kind of stopped everything. And we were like, well, how do we, stay in touch with everyone? How do we, keep the film scene going? How do we help creatives not go crazy stuck in their house, So we were like, let's do a home movie madness. Let's do a challenge and send it out there to, everybody that we know and invite people to submit. And we'll do like a streaming show and we'll do some funny awards and we'll do some serious awards. And that's how that came about. So I think there were 7 teams that did it. And we did a whole live stream. Yeah, it was small, but it was really, really intimate and fun. And I think everybody was just thrilled to be able to do a project. And so, I was, stuck at my house without any of the comfy film team. So, we're like, okay, well, each of us, we also need to participate. So we made our own to contribute to the platform. So I did one in honor of all the, high school and college graduates who didn't get to have a graduation ceremony in 2020. Because, I mean, like, I can't even imagine that. Like, I would be devastated, like, if that had happened to me. So I'm like grateful that I didn't have to go through that, but I feel horrible for people who didn't get to have a graduation ceremony. So
yeah, people pay for that. It's not like even in high school, even though that's a big deal too, but you pay for all this and you don't even get to graduate in that sense.
Exactly. It's a big moment, it should be this big celebration.
Tradition.
So yeah, tradition, everything. And I know, some people don't care as much, but it's still like everybody remembers when they graduated, you know.
COVID broke everything. It broke so much, right?
Yeah. It really did. So yeah, so I saw a lot of news coverage about, people doing alternative types of celebrations and graduation ceremonies, whether people were driving by or if they were holding like online parties or
Zoom,
just people doing Zoom. Yeah. People doing different celebrations. And so I was like, well, I'll do a story like that. So I did one. It's called Canceled, and not in like the cancel culture sense, but in like the graduation's been canceled. I actually I thought of that like earlier today. I was like, oh, maybe that wasn't the best title because that's not what I meant by it.
Well,
but like,
it might
whatever,
get you some extra attention.
There you go. Yes. Well, yeah. So I made this. It's really short, but about a girl who is waiting, and the shutdown happens. They don't know if they're going to be able to have their graduation, and how upset she gets, and then sort of like an uplifting moment at the end. So I enjoyed doing it. It was my first, like I said, it was the first thing I ever shot on a phone, and I had way more fun than I thought, and it looked way better than I thought, and it really just broke all of my ideas that I had about, well, not that I had spent a ton of time. I hadn't really spent a ton of time thinking about it, but it broke all those limitations, like I was saying, that I had, thought would be present trying to shoot something on my phone. So yeah. And after that I submitted it to a couple other little things, and it got into 2 other little festivals last year, and I was like, wow, cool.
It's amazing, right?
It was a blast.
That's the whole part of it. Sometimes I think with mobile filmmaking too, that a lot of filmmakers, I mean, they don't care if they make money off of it or anything like that. They just want to share it, want to see the reaction and experience the festival experience, really.
Yeah. Yep. Exactly.
Yeah, because you're not expecting like, oh, I'm shooting. And maybe it's a little more like with a feature length film, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I mean, if you can make some money on it, like guys, you should,
Yeah, great. Yep, go for it.
But
100%.
I know that's not the mentality that they go into, which is one of the reasons why I call this like a completely different. It's turned into from a community, right, of supporting people who are sharing and collaborating and things like that, into its own culture. Because, and I noticed this a few years ago in our film festival, we had a 12-year-old girl, we had an 84-year-old woman, and and she had been in the industry for many years, but she was, using iPhones now, to make films. And this 12-year-old girl that had, maybe made one little film, one little stop motion film. And here we were on the red carpet in San Diego with people, and they were both from San Diego, with people who came from different parts of the world. Some of them were filmmakers, established filmmakers, meaning that they have been making independent films on their own and things like that. And video producers trying to make a film, why not? And then housewives, or just decided to go ahead, or families, and they were all on the red carpet. People who travel,
That is so cool.
experiencing things. Yeah, and they're all there on the red carpet sharing this experience in this moment as filmmakers. And I was
As
thinking
storytellers.
storyteller, and that's like the whole world. Like, my thing is like trying to emphasize how powerful it is to be able to tell stories, and not everybody can tell a story that's engaging verbally, but that doesn't mean they don't have it in them. And I think sometimes films, it's like children who can't speak, who can draw, right?
Yeah.
They can still communicate.
It's a different medium.
Yes. And it has so many, like what you were saying before, it has so many different aspects of it, with, the audio and the visual and the psychological part, right? All these things put together. And I don't like for anyone to be intimidated with it, because quite honestly, our great grandparents even have, it's in our genes. Like, we just have to start doing it, and then all of a sudden we know what we're doing when it comes to structuring a film together. We know what a fade in and a fade out does psychologically. We know that if we stall, if video goes to black, right, and it stalls for a little while, right, we know what that means. We know what that sensation evokes, right? We just have to try it and do it. And it's so easy to go on even iMovie and just drag a transition in and goes, oh, that makes me feel this. Oh, what does that one do? Oh, this one's just perfect,
Yeah, like what tone do different things add, to the overall effect? Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so it can be so creative, and so the challenge of it is also very attractive, right? It takes special people in sometimes for that, to appreciate the challenge. But I think most of us, growing up with computers and phones and, just this whole medium, right? I remember in junior high, like wood shop. I was like, are you kidding me? It's like, what am I going to do in wood shop? I got all elaborate trying to make like a CD case, and I totally wrecked it. And the teacher was like, you're going to get an F. I'm like, why? Why does this have to be so hard? And he's like, you got out of all the things you could have done, Susie, you could have just made a box. And I'm like, no, but it had to have slots for the CDs. It was like crazy. Yeah. But
you could have just made a box. That's so funny.
But then I get in GarageBand and I compose music, right? Or I do graphics. I was a graphics designer for a long time, so I use that to my advantage for things too. But all these things, and a 5-year-old, can get in there and use iMovie on a phone or something. I mean, it's just it's there. I don't know where I'm going with all this right now, but
well, I think it's just to say, like, everything is at your fingertips to try, to start, do, and even if the first several projects that I made, whether it was on a phone, well, I didn't make them on a phone, so I don't mean it like that, but I mean, like, the first projects I made back in the day, like from 18 to like 20 something, were terrible, but I learned so much from them, and I had so much fun doing them, and it just increased my passion and desire to like continue to do that and to hone the skills, even though it's like frustrating at times if you can't pull off what's in your head the first time around. That's okay, but I'm telling you, pulling out your phone and shooting a film unlocks something. It will unlock something in you to that will help you in the next thing that you do. Like it will. It has to, because it's you're creating something, and you're practicing a skill set, you're making art, and it's going to teach you something, and you're going to get something out of it. And
and it's good therapy too.
Do it. Oh, yes, it is such good therapy. Yes.
But also,
always.
The communication that we get to have with each other, through that. I mean,
Yes.
I've
I mean,
had
like,
friendships that are just based on projects.
yeah, totally. I mean, heck, even you, talking to you, like I never would have met you if I wouldn't have been in that filmmakers podcast room on Clubhouse.
Did
And
we
now we're
mention that
talking, and we're
yet
talking
in
about.
the podcast how we met?
I I don't know. I can't remember if it was before we started rolling or not.
Yeah. So
That's how we met. If we
yeah.
didn't say it.
Yeah, we were at Clubhouse, and I usually I rarely have time to go into a bunch of different rooms, but it was
Yeah.
just the right time when I was like, oh, I want to go in here, and because I check in once in a while, I open it,
Yeah. Yeah.
And Rach, the funny thing is, like, you were really quiet in there. You were a speaker. She was a quiet speaker, guys.
Yeah.
Everybody else was just all over the place. And she was the quiet speaker. But so when she did speak, everybody just like, wow, what is Rachel going to say? And she had interesting things to say.
Hanging.
And so there was something in me that wanted me to ask you, have you ever shot with a phone? And your answer was yes. And it was like incredible. It was like, well, you got to get on this podcast. And that's all it takes, guys.
It was so cool. Yeah, for real. It was such a cool connection.
Yeah.
Totally.
So now that you've got 4 mobile films under your belt,
Yeah.
What's next, Rachel? What's the next? Are you going to make a feature, or would you consider making a feature film?
On a phone?
Yeah.
I have thought about it. I think it definitely has to be the right project. I'm definitely interested to do that.
Would your team
or
favor
interested
that?
in doing that? Maybe.
Because that's the other part.
Now
right?
I'm going to ask them. Yeah, I mean, I definitely, I would want to have, a small team to do something like that. But that would be very, very interesting. It would have to be the right project to do that. I think maybe what I would do for a phone film immediately next is to do a longer short.
Yeah.
That was a little more intentional about story and lighting and
we
sound
have a
and everything.
feature film category that starts at 40 minutes.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yay.
So if you don't want to do like an entire 2-hour film,
do a 41-minute film or a 40-minute film. Yeah. I'm super interested. So I think I would do like a longer one, like just a longer short first, and then just see how that goes, and then maybe try for the feature. I would love to do it at some point. I think it would be a lot of fun and a little and just different to do a whole feature like that.
Well, you know how you surprised yourself with the short, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think
So
it would
you're gonna be
a
doing
bigger version of that.
air flips in the air when you make a feature film, because you're going to go, wow, this is a total game changer.
You are probably right. I'm definitely interested to give it a shot.
You may be the first
again,
feature film that wins an Academy Award, for all we know.
I don't know about that, but hey, I'm here for the ride if that's what happens. But no, yeah, I mean, like I said, it'll have to be the right project, and I think it would be a blast to do it. I'm open, and I want to try at some point.
So with your other films, they're all narrative films, right?
Yes.
And where are you? How many of the other films have you made so far? And what genre do you like?
So I have done total about like 14 short films, and I am working on getting 2 features made. The genre tends to be drama as like the overall arc, and then like from there subcategories of that, like a thriller, tragedy, horror comedy, and then I have a little family one as well. So yeah, I don't know. I always tend towards the drama side of I don't know. It lets me get out my demons, if you will. releasing impactful stories. It's really not about creating drama. For me, it's more about telling stories that inspire, motivate, and that have real world impact. So that's sort of my line of like, I want to be a holistic storyteller that there's so like, I want to be able to hit so many points of the human experience in my storytelling. And I'm definitely still, learning and honing that skill. But yeah.
You ever seen that movie Go?
No, I haven't.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
I will now. I will. And when people tell me that I need to see something, I write it down and it goes on the list.
Yeah, that was a good movie. I'm trying to think of the people's names that were in it, and just as I'm saying that, they are all escaping me. But everybody can watch that. It's somewhere, I'm
gonna look
sure.
it up.
But it's from I think it was in early 2000 or late 90s. I think it was, I can't remember. But it's a great movie because it just the beginning of it. It starts out really tragic.
Oh yeah.
You know? And then it
with
just
Sarah Polley. I'm looking at it right now.
Are you Googling it?
Yeah, I IMDb'd it.
Well, like everything, right? By the way, this podcast is now on IMDb.
Woohoo!
One of the things I decided to finally do. It was on my list. Speaking of lists,
that's awesome.
Yeah.
I love it.
Well, so that's a good movie to watch because it does do some really crazy storytelling and it involves drama. It is kind of a thriller. It's crime, but it's also it's comedy as well. It's one of those like. Did you ever watch?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yes. I've seen clips of this.
Yes, it's a really fun film to watch. I think I must have watched it too many times.
No such thing.
Yeah, but it seems like that was like the kind of movie that you'd like, and they have strong characters, and I think strong characters are really important to any story that you tell, even if the character sometimes has to be a location or something, right? Because that happens, but it has to be powerful somehow in some way, or even powerful at being unpowerful.
Ooh, I like that. I like that. That's good. Yeah, totally. I have one. I just finished writing the first draft of my third feature script, and It is the one that I've worked on the longest. So it's really the first screenplay that I started for real, but it's not the first one that I finished, which is kind of funny because I've started over so many times. It's like my baby project, and one of the characters is a relationship between two people, as the main. It's about their relationship as a character. So yeah, that what you said is 100% that if it doesn't even matter if it's a person or not, but it's that if it's the location that's giving that powerful story element, a person, a relationship, a whatever, those things are key in conveying something. Yeah.
It's one thing that I like to express to our listeners, it's one of the reasons why mobile filmmaking is so much more important than people can get a grasp on. Because the more people that are making films, the more stories that we have, the more that we have. And there's just such a big need for that.
100%.
Because if you think about,
and we know we want to see it. We want to see it.
Yes.
We know we've heard the same story a million times now. Right. From and I'm not saying they're bad films or I would want to get rid of them or I'm sick of them. Please keep making the big studio films. Right. We love them. But also there's so many, I was talking about this with Brendan, in that film podcast room on Clubhouse, about, we want to hear the stuff that hasn't been heard yet.
Yes.
And there's so much from so many different groups of people, from so many cultures, from so many circumstances, that just haven't been.
Different perspectives. I mean, you can't get enough of those.
Exactly.
I mean, even
So
if
yeah,
it is
your
the
phone
same
is
story.
powerful. Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, like, obviously there's always going to be that human relatable element in whatever story you're telling, definitely.
Or we'll start
But
floating.
yeah, exactly. So, yeah, but like your phone is your powerful character in a
Yes.
sense,
Yeah.
you know? And it helps you to tell your story.
From your perspective, and everybody has such a
Yeah.
unique perspective. Everybody's, I said that, I forgot where I wrote this. But sometimes I get things in my head and I just either I tweet it or I say it on Facebook or whatever. But there's only at the same exact moment in time, no two people are standing in the exact same space with the
Wow.
exact same
Yeah.
perspective. So there's every millisecond of our life on this earth. You can't there are millions of unique perspectives all around the world.
Yes.
And that's a lot of
Yes.
stories.
Yes. Wow.
And with that,
Yeah, I'm like deep thoughts. Wow. That's great.
so where can people find you? And well, let me ask you this first.
Yeah.
What is it that we've left out? What is the one thing that you want to ensure that our listeners get from this podcast, from Rachel?
I would have to say the fear. Don't let the fear keep you back, because the fear will eat you alive. I'm telling you, if you like shoot that first thing or shoot that second thing, make the next project, do it. Just go do it. Don't give in to the fear, because once you punch through that barrier, and I mean, it'll keep coming back, but like it will be less and less each time, and it's just worth it. Don't let the fear hold you back. I let fear hold me back a lot in making things, and now no more. And I'm not saying that I'm perfect at dealing with the fear, because it still comes, but it's so worth it to not let fear keep you back from making something. Don't fear of what other people are going to think, especially your family and friends. I think it's harder to show my stuff to family and friends than it is to strangers.
Yeah.
100%. I think that's pretty common.
Yeah.
But don't let fear of what they think, no, like, do it. Go do it.
I
worth
think
it.
one of the things too, guys, is actually don't think about making a movie like it's going to go to every household on a big screen or even to a film festival. Just make films.
Do it for you.
Yeah, do it for yourself, and that will get you. That's like the best way. I noticed that, for example, like with writing, right? If I write something and then I go to start editing and proofing it and so forth too much, I'll never publish it.
Yes, it's the endless rewrites.
Yeah.
You get stuck in that circle. Yeah.
Yeah. But if I just publish it, and then when I finally do, like, it doesn't have a decent response, right? And if I just put it out of my head and put it out there, right? I'll check grammar and spelling or something, you know what I mean? But other than that, I just go for it. And that's not an easy thing to do. That took me a while to get used to, just writing things, you know what I'm saying? Because you're going, oh, God, people are going to criticize what I'm saying and things like that. It's like, you know what, whatever. But when you do that, then I get a better response from it. And I think it's natural. I think if we, like you said, the fear, don't let the fear get to you, because it can really get in your way creatively.
Yes. Definitely.
So don't even think about film festivals. I'm like shooting myself in the foot here. Don't think about that stuff, right?
Yeah, exactly. It's because it's that energy going into your project. I mean, yes, we all want our stories to be seen, right?
Right.
In a sense, because it is about sharing an experience.
Rachel, we can
sharing a
only
story.
say this because we're talking about mobile phones. Now, we can't say to someone who's done funding and has investors in their film, and all this stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, don't even worry about it. Just, we can't do that
No,
there.
yeah.
But for mobile
Right.
filmmaking, it's one of the virtues of mobile filmmaking where,
Exactly.
until you get to that point to where, yes, you can get funding and get more people involved and things like that but by now you're an experienced smartphone filmmaker.
Yeah, it it gives you a lot of tools.
Yeah. And you have more confidence and you have less fear.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah.
And even then, when you go to, at least when you're going to write a story and tell a story, tell it from your heart, tell it, tell it not to. And yes, like even like with even with the big films though, it's like not about, oh, don't make a film to win an Oscar. Make a film to tell a good story because you want to share something with the world.
Yeah.
That's why you want to tell it. And then hopefully it, you put it together in such a way, with your investors and your producers and all of these things, right, that makes it marketable and all, all the things that are necessary for like the business side and getting the film out there and all of those things. But I think it's the same thing too. Even like some of the like top people have said you cannot tell a story to like get famous or whatever, because it's the wrong energy going into the project. It's the wrong creative.
It does affect the story that you end up telling a lot.
Yes, exactly. So to your point, yes, exactly. While keeping in mind what needs to be done for when you do have the budget and the investors and all of those things.
Yeah, but that time you're a pro now, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, but be free of all of that with the mobile filmmaking.
I think, and we were, to go back to the beginning when we were talking about the art and the science. See, and that's where that plays into. Some of the most memorable artists, whether it's music or abstract art or painters or whatever it is, right?
Yes.
They did it for themselves, and they were very natural about it. They didn't put that much in. It's only like for a lot of the bands, right? The musical bands, whatever. It's when they start worrying about their music being marketable that they start to go downhill and they start to have problems. Because and all of a sudden they're intimidated by that and they have all this pressure, and you don't need to put that pressure on yourself. You'll be on a you'll have better footing if you're not.
Yes, exactly. And those people will come in at the time that they need to come in to help you, be marketable and all of that stuff. Like stay focused on the story.
So, Rachel, where can people, I will do this in the intro too, and of course we'll put it on the notes and all that, but where can people find you, and what is one thing that you want people to reach out to you about?
Ooh, that's a good question.
I know, I can't believe I asked it.
I know, that's awesome. No. I've told people on Clubhouse, if you have film festival questions, drop me a DM. I'll be happy to help answer them. Because I'm pretty well versed in Film Freeway and with festival rules and just being involved in a lot of festivals these past couple of years. So yeah, drop me a DM if you need, help navigating that world. And you can find me on Instagram and on IMDb. My handle for Instagram is Rachel_Jacob_Nola. And I've got like my reels and all of that attached. So yeah. If people want to see, you don't have to see it, but it's fine.
No, we are going to throw some links down here. It's my gift for you bearing with us to inspire our listeners. one.
Well, I hope it helps in some way, but I don't know if it was
Yes,
inspiring.
well, definitely. Well, and
yeah.
again, one day you'll be in the Academy Awards, and we'll be able to point out that you were here first. No.
Oh my gosh, that's great.
All right,
Having drinks,
right?
Yes. Yeah.
Listeners, thank you for listening. I hope that I'm pretty sure that Rachel inspired you, but I hope I did too. Keep.
Oh, yes.
Keep.
You inspire me.
Keep.
Are you kidding? I think it's awesome what you do with the festival and with the podcast. It's phenomenal.
Well, and some of our listeners have been on the show, and some of them are making movies that have been part of the film festival. Rachel does not have
awesome.
a Twitter. I kind of tend to live on Twitter land lately. But
I know I don't have Twitter. Yeah.
if we can twist your arm to at some point get a Twitter, that'd be great, because then I could tag you. But in either case, to all our listeners out there, thanks for being a part of the festival, because, with no listeners, there is no podcast. Without filmmakers, there are no film festivals. And that's really the reality of the world we live in. You create things for you, but you love it when someone sees it. And if you're making films and sharing stories, it's about connecting.
Yes.
We need each other for that. So support your fellow creators, and we'll see you on the next episode of the SBP podcast, Mobile Filmmaking. And feel free to mention Rachel and tag her on Instagram and let her know that you listened to her in this podcast. All right, guys? Say goodbye, Rachel.
Bye, everyone. Thank you so much for listening, and thanks for having me on the show.